Hello, welcome to Podfic Galore. I'm your horrible online reader, Goldscut. I read out loud fanfictions for you busy bees, free of charge and no strings attached. Today I will continue reading another alternative universe fic by MisatosPenpen and PhoenixInnocence from Archive of Our Own called Scars. Note, this fic is rated explicit. I hope you can at least try to enjoy my voice, and I will try my best for you with the equipment available to me. On with the show. Scars by MisatosPenpen and PhoenixInnocence. Chapter 3. Wednesday, November 4th. Sasuke got out of his car, shouldering his laptop case. As soon as he shut the door, he rested his hand on the grip of his gun at his hip. He approached the lovely cottage-style house. Riverside Avenue really was Riverside. This was just beyond the edge of the city in a wealthy part of town, and the house faced the Naka River. The lights were on in the house, and an old red pickup truck in the drive. It occurred to Sasuke as he walked up the stone path that he should have run some background on the house and found out who owned it. Too late now. Sasuke saw curtains move. Someone knew he was there. Sasuke got to the door and gripped his gun. He knocked. The door opened, and there stood a man with a long blonde hair. "Sasuke Uchiha?" the blonde asked. "Yes," Sasuke answered. "You look just like him. Deidara Bakuha. Please come in." Sasuke nodded and stepped in past Deidara. Deidara shut the door. He looked down at Sasuke's hand at his hip. "You really believe Itachi's innocent, right?" Deidara asked. "Yes, but I'm not stupid enough to meet someone like this unarmed." "Fair enough. Just please, no shooting in my house." "Where's my brother?" Sasuke caught movement out of the corner of his eye and turned. There stood Itachi, much as Sasuke remembered him. He had the same black eyes and regal features, the same teardrops in his cheeks as their father. His hair was a little longer by the looks of it, though it was still caught up in a ponytail. But Itachi looked tired. Sasuke had to stop himself from running to him. "Itachi?" Itachi smiled guardedly. "Ototo?" "Look me in the eye and tell me you're innocent. That you didn't kill them." Itachi stared right into Sasuke's nearly identical eyes. "I swear to you, Sasuke, I have never killed anyone in my life. Certainly not our family. Never our mother." Sasuke decided that he didn't care if he was shot in the back or stabbed in the gut. He eased his back to the ground and rushed his brother, throwing his arms around him. Itachi raised his arms in surprise, which left them free to wrap around his little brother's body. He kissed Sasuke's hair. "I've missed you so much, Sasuke." Itachi was barely holding back sobs. "I've missed you terribly, even as I wanted to kill you for what they said you did," Sasuke said, his voice muffled against Itachi's neck. Sasuke lost all his well-constructed Uchiha pride and sobbed into his older brother's neck. Even Deidara started crying, seeing the reunion of the brothers who had loved each other so much, but had been separated by such tragedy. Their knees grew weak, and then they eased to the floor as they clung together desperately. Deidara wiped at his eyes as he left them to get water. Sasuke fell asleep in the arms of his brother. The reunion was draining, and he had already had a long day at work. Luckily, they had moved to the sofa before he fell asleep. Itachi let his baby brother sleep against them. It was difficult for Itachi to look away from Sasuke's sleeping face. He spent quite some time brushing Sasuke's bangs away from his face, totally unperturbed that they kept falling back, allowing Itachi to keep petting him. "I should be jealous," Deidara whispered. "I have been missing him for 11 years, Deidara," Itachi whispered back. "My precious baby brother." "I'm happy for you, Itachi." Itachi smiled at him and looked back at his sleeping brother. "You don't know how much I've missed him. With the rest of our family dead, he's all I have left." "What am I, chopped liver, A crazy lover." Deidara stuck his tongue out at Itachi and walked back to the hall. He returned with a blanket and 2 pillows. He shoved the pillow behind Itachi's head, and the other one he put on the floor. He spread the blanket over the brothers. "Night," Deidara said. "Good night." Deidara turned off the lights and went to bed. Thursday, November 5th. Sasuke groaned as he woke up. He was never a morning person, and this morning he felt like he had a hangover. He sat up and realized he wasn't in his bed. Or Kakashi's bed. He looked at his pillow, and his heart raced at seeing his brother lying there. He smiled. He had his brother back. The hangover feeling was dehydration from crying so much last night. They hadn't really spoken more than 50 words to each other, and certainly didn't talk about the case. The sky was brightening. He got up and found his jacket and checked the time on his phone. 5:51 a.m. He shut it off, not wanting to even talk to Neji this morning. He looked for a bathroom. He groaned as he shut the door and opened his fly. He looked around as he relieved himself. A lot of clay figurines, handmade by the look of them. His brother was never very artistic, neither was he. This must be Deidara's. Once he was finished, he freshened up, washing the salty residue from his cheeks and picking up the dry rheum from the corners of his eyes. Sasuke returned to the living room and sat in a chair where he could stare at Itachi's face as the sun rose. It was a lovely morning, but Itachi's face was more beautiful to him. Itachi's mouth was open and he looked ridiculous, but Sasuke was just so happy to have him back. The fact Sasuke was still alive increased his belief that Itachi was innocent. A little later, he heard footsteps coming down the hall. Sasuke looked around the back of his chair and saw Deidara looking in on them. Finally awake, baby Uchiha. Sasuke frowned at the nickname. Yeah. Want some breakfast? Please. Why don't you wake Tachi? I think he'd prefer waking up to someone else's face for once. Sasuke had already guessed at the relationship, and that pretty much confirmed it. Deidara went to the kitchen, and Sasuke crept up to the side of the sofa. Tachi, Sasuke whispered. Itachi. Itachi moaned. Itachi-kun. Sasuke sang softly like their mother used to. Wake up. Itachi pulled the blanket higher and muttered something. Don't make me throw ice on you. Itachi's eyes snapped open and he pulled the blanket down. Their father had actually thrown ice on him once. His eyes were wide when he saw Sasuke's smiling face. Then he remembered. Ototo. Good morning, Itachi. The blonde is making breakfast. Sleep well? I feel like I have a hangover, but otherwise, yeah. Itachi sat up and pulled Sasuke to him. I can't believe you're really here. I followed your life as well as I could. I'm so proud of you. That means a lot, Sasuke said. I had to break up the snuggle fest, Deidara said from the open doorway between the living room and dining room. But breakfast is almost done and the coffee's ready. Ready for some natto and sweet buns? Itachi asked his brother. Sasuke looked at him, horrified. Itachi laughed and poked him in the forehead. That was almost worth 11 years of separation, Itachi laughed. Sasuke's eyes scowled, but his lips were smiling. I have missed you, Aniki. For dinner, we should have carpaccio. Itachi kissed the spot he just poked. Sasuke rolled his eyes and walked away, but he was smiling. He really missed his brother, even his teasing. Maybe that was another reason he loved Kakashi. His teasing reminded him of his brother's good-natured teasing. He took a seat at the table, Itachi following languidly behind. He stopped to wrap his arms around the blonde's waist and to kiss him good morning, then sat in the chair next to Sasuke. A second later, Deidara placed a mug in front of Itachi, who murmured a thanks. Itachi took a sip, wincing as the heated liquid burned his tongue. Deidara put another mug in front of Sasuke. Cream or sugar? A bit of cream, please. How have you been, Sasuke? Itachi finally asked, placing his mug back on the table. I've been okay, I guess. Better now that I have you back in my life. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you. Why did you run? Why didn't you defend your innocence? Itachi sat back in his chair, his hand resting on the table, his thumb rubbing the handle of his mug. You may not understand this, and you may not want to, but I thought it would be better on you if I left, run away, than to have you watch me tried and convicted of our family's slaughter. I have no doubt I would have been convicted. I would have stood behind you, Sasuke started. No. You were going through a phase at a time when you wanted nothing to do with me except to beat me at everything. You made everything a competition between us, determined to one-up me at all costs. In the end, you believed I was capable of murdering our family. That's because you ran! Sasuke snapped. Itachi shook his head. No. I heard you that night at the front door when FBI arrived to arrest me. You believed what he was saying. It made sense to your 15-year-old mind. So I made the hard decision to leave you behind instead of staying to fight. Sasuke remembered that night, almost 2 months after their family died. He was staying with Itachi in his townhouse and had just started going back to school. Itachi was upstairs when the doorbell rang, so Sasuke, working on his homework in the living room, answered the door. Hiruzen Sarutobi asked for Itachi. He had other officers behind him, and Sasuke got the picture. He asked if they were going to arrest Itachi. They didn't answer, just gently moved him aside and entered the house. He did it! He did it, didn't he? They wouldn't answer him. When they went upstairs, Itachi was gone. He had slipped out of an upstairs window and down the fire escape. Sasuke spent half a year with Naruto and his parents after that. Would you have stayed if I hadn't believed the FBI? Sasuke asked, swallowing the lump in his throat. I would have. With you in my corner, I could have fought. In vain, but I would have fought nonetheless. I didn't want to be separated from you. This is my fault. This is my fault, Sasuke whispered. Tears slid down his face. Itachi wiped Sasuke's tears away, smiling when Sasuke looked up at him. No, this isn't your fault. Don't blame yourself for anything. But you would have stayed if I... And I would be behind bars right now. Sasuke gave a reluctant nod, but shook his head a second later. You think this is better? Running, constantly hiding from the law? It gave me the freedom to do some digging of my own. And I get laid pretty regularly by someone not named Butch. Sasuke chuckled. Itachi's smile died as he took a deep breath. I ran because I was scared, not just of prison, but what it would do to you if I was convicted. I think I would have lost you for good. Sasuke couldn't deny that Itachi was likely correct about that. He had, after all, considered murdering Itachi even without him being convicted. So, why contact me now? Why didn't you contact me years ago? Itachi brought his cup to his lips again, blowing across the surface of the light brown liquid in an attempt to cool it. He took a swallow. I had to be sure you were ready to listen. I knew once you matured a little more, and especially after you joined the FBI, you'd be better able and more willing to analyze the facts. Sasuke nodded. I loved crime dramas, and therefore I respected the FBI and thought they were infallible. I learned how wrong I was. You did argue with Father before I left for Miso, but I know it wasn't motive to kill anyone else. I didn't hate you back then, you know. I just didn't like being told to be more like you rather than seen as myself. I was always compared to you. That's why I was standoffish or whatever. I made everything a competition because I wanted to be acknowledged, just not compared to you. I looked up to you, but hated being pushed to be more like you. You don't know what it was like after you left. I was so alone. I missed you more than anyone else. You being gone hurt more than even Mother's death. Even though I believed you were guilty, I missed you. I missed you so much. I hated you for making me so miserable. Itachi pulled Sasuke's head toward him and just pressed his forehead to Sasuke's temple. I missed you too. You two are just so cute, Deidara said, breaking the mood. Sasuke pulled away. Deidara placed Sasuke and Itachi's plates on the table and turned to get his own plate and sat down on Itachi's other side. So, what have you been doing since you left? Where did you go? Sasuke asked. I went to Ame. I had college friends there, and some were not entirely law-abiding. Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan believed me and took me in. I've been working in their company, Akatsuki. They were able to cook up a fake identity for me, and I even paid taxes. I just worked from home, Yahiko's home. I came back to Konoha about a year ago in preparation to contact you. I also knew you were in FBI now and had access to all the case files. I'm so tired of hiding and I want my brother back. Where do you come in? Sasuke asked the blonde. So I work for Konoha's ATF and they wanted me to help in this sting in Ame. This guy was smuggling weapons and explosives and they wanted me there to examine whatever they nabbed. Anyway, I went out to this club. Not so much my scene, but I wanted to get out and get a drink and no one knew me out there, so I figured I could cut loose. Cut loose translates to spasming uncontrollably in a rough approximation of a beat, Itachi said. Deidara ignored him. So there I was drinking my drink, just looking around, and I see these eyes. It was one of those things when you just meet someone else's eyes by chance. I didn't even see his face or anything, just those beautiful black eyes. They downright scared me. So Dachi comes up to me and we started talking, but I was just so entranced by him I don't really remember what we talked about or how the question was asked, but one of us suggested going to my hotel room. I thought she cut him off before he could add any detail to that. Being a wanted man, but not knowing Deidara was a Konoha agent, I tried to sneak out before morning, but Deidara woke up. You should have seen Dachi's face. God tried to sneak away. Deidara laughed. Yes, well, Itachi replied rather stiffly. It wasn't one of his finer moments and one Deidara recalled with glee. As I remember it, Itachi was very good at sneaking about, Sasuke said. Silent as the devil, Mother used to say when he snuck up on her in the kitchen. Father said he must be a reincarnated ninja. Deidara continued. I'm a light sleeper, when he's not dead to the world. And Tachi's moving about, silent as he was, caught my attention. So what made you join Itachi? You're an agent yourself. You should have recognized him. Sasuke leveled a look at Deidara, quirking a brow. As a matter of fact, I did recognize Tachi's picture. Only after I tried to leave, Itachi muttered, taking a sip of his coffee. He looked different from the pictures. It was the sneaking owl that tipped me off, and I recalled his picture circulating through the office. Less alcohol and non-club lighting helped, but I was mostly curious. I wanted to know why he did it. I grabbed his wrist and said his name. He freaked. If I hadn't been holding a man wanted for mass murder, I would have laughed my head off. Then he did something that made me doubt his guilt. Anyway, Itachi tried to interrupt. Go on, Deidara, Sasuke said with a sadistic smile. He begged me to let him go. He said he was framed. If he truly had been a mass murderer, of his own family no less, he would have killed me to silence me, not been begging me like a frightened kitten. He thought she was scowling behind his coffee cup. How could I deny such a sad, lost kitten? Deidara simpered. He offered to tell his story, and I decided, what the hell, why not? So I listened to him speak, and slowly it began to make sense. I do sort of like conspiracy theories. The case was before my time, but I remembered it and the controversy. Many couldn't believe a son could murder his parents like that, but public opinion turned against him when he fled. I offered him my assistance, which I turned down. Itachi frowned. At first, but then I convinced him I was sincere, and I've been helping him ever since. I actually helped him get back into Konoha unseen, under the guise of another weapon sting. Itachi came in right under their noses. Charming, Sasuke muttered darkly, clearly not impressed. It was a real weapon sting, Ototo. It wasn't set up for my benefit. I just used the circumstances to my advantage. Contorted in a box full of rifles. I kept him here in this summer house ever since. I tried to at least pay rent, but he wouldn't have it. I continued to work for Akatsuki and insisted I at least pay for my food, which he has to bring me. My face is too well known in Konoha. In Ame, I could get out a little, but here, not a chance. We both look too much like Uchiha, Sasuke agreed. The fact there is an Uchiha Avenue and the area around Sharingan's headquarters has been renamed Uchiha Memorial Plaza keep the story alive in people's memories. I've had to see your face every day on wanted posters in our field office. Kakashi took the ones down near my desk for my sake. He noticed my rage and/or depression whenever I saw it. I'm sorry, Ototo. I've caused you as much pain as father. But are you certain it was him? I mean, You've convinced me that you're innocent, but I still find it hard to believe. I hate to think that Mother had an affair with our uncle, but damn, Sasuke, you look just like him. More like him than you do Father. More like him than even Obito, and he was his biological son. It's the only thing I can think of. Father was disgusted that I was gay, and that may be why he framed me. I don't know. If he's alive, and I'm sure he is, we'll find him and find out the truth. Baby Uchiha, Deidara said. Don't you have work? What did you call me? Baby Uchiha? Uchiha. Deidara pointed at Itachi, and then to Sasuke. Baby Uchiha. Itachi was biting the inside of his cheek as Sasuke's temper percolated. Itachi pulled Sasuke against him and kissed his temple. You are my baby brother. No one but you, Itachi, ever calls me baby anything. You're still a baby, Uchiha, Deidara said. Sasuke grumbled. But he's right, Itachi said. It's Thursday, don't you have to work? Neji'll cover me. What about the two of you? I'm about to go get ready, Deidara said. Hey, can I take your caddy? Oh, hell no. I do all my work over the internet, Itachi said. I finished everything I could so it wouldn't interrupt us. I'll just check in once a day. They know what I'm doing here in Konoha. Deidara gave Itachi a kiss on the cheek as he left the kitchen. It doesn't bother you, does it? Itachi asked. Deidara and I. No. Though I wonder, why him? Is it because he knows who you are? No, I love him. As long as you do, I'm fine with it. I'm glad. I don't want anything to push you away now that you're here. I'm too happy to see you again that your boyfriend could be Richard Simmons and I'd be fine with it. Don't make me gag. I wanted to go over the case today, but I'd rather just spend the day with you. Tell me more about your life since you left. I want to catch up with you. I want that too. I've missed so much of your life. They cleaned up from breakfast, hearing Deidara leaving for the day, and then headed to the living room. Sasuke kept his phone off. He didn't want Neji interrupting his time with his brother. Friday, November 6th. There were 4 bedrooms in this riverside cottage. Itachi, of course, slept in Deidara's room. One was a studio of sorts where Deidara made little clay figures. The other 2 rooms were guest rooms. Sasuke brought in his suitcase from the trunk of his car with clothes for when he was suddenly called out of town. He set up in a cozy room that night. He had trouble sleeping, though. He was reunited with his brother. That boded more than just having a member of his family he loved most back. Someone else was guilty of his family's murder. And his father alive? His sleep was fretful. Friday was spent going through all the case files and sorting them out, and Sasuke drew up a new case file using FBI techniques, pointing the finger at his father. He also noted everything that was wrong with the original case against Itachi. A good lawyer would have torn this to rags, Sasuke said. We had the money for that. A decent lawyer. Itachi shifted through the stack of papers and took out a sheaf of newspaper clippings and copies. He handed the folder to Sasuke. It was a witch hunt, Ototo. Even if I had a decent lawyer and they managed to get me off the murder charge, public opinion already said I was guilty. That's no way to live a life. We need an alternate suspect. Sasuke leafed through the papers and had to agree, but he was sad to see it. He was part of an undue suspicion. I'm so sorry, Aniki. Why? It's not your fault. I doubted you. I forgive you. Don't worry about it, Ototo. You were still a kid. A precocious 15-year-old kid, but still a kid. You were not to blame. I still feel like shit. Help me clear my name, Ototo, and we can put it all behind us. We have to prove Father's alive. That will be the hardest part. We'll find him. I kept your townhouse, Sasuke said. I kept all your stuff there. I had the mansion demolished, but all the furniture that survived I moved into your place. I had the title and all transferred into my name. Most of the smaller things I store in an extra room in my house, but I used your place for storage. Want to go back? Maybe pick up a few things? Yeah, I would. Let's go tomorrow. Neji had his own apartment, but he often came over to his uncle's house for dinner. That Friday, he was worried about his partner. 2 days were unusual, and he was torn between covering for his partner and alerting Tunade to his disappearance. He didn't bother to knock as he entered the mansion. He didn't see anyone straight off, so he went to the lounge for a drink and to find something else to distract him. The newspaper or a book. He poured himself a scotch and grabbed the local paper. He tried to interest himself in politics, a manhunt in Suna, an affair shaping up in Kiri, the latest attempted bank robbery here in Konoha, which grabbed his attention for a moment, seeing one of his co-workers' name mentioned, and prospects for the football team, and news about his uncle's company trying to buy out a smaller company, but his mind kept wandering to his missing partner. His uncle entered the room, and Neji didn't even see him as he stared past the top of the paper in his lap. Neji? Neji looked up, then stood, hastily catching the paper before it fell to the floor. It sometimes disturbed Neji how much Hiyashi looked like his own late father. They were twins, after all. Good evening, uncle. You seem distracted. Anything wrong? Neji sat down with a sigh, tossing the paper onto the table. My partner's been missing for 2 days. I'm getting really worried. I think it might have something to do with his family's murder. The Hyuga were as expressionless as the Uchiha, but Hiyashi looked disturbed. You mean his brother may have returned to finish the job? Or that Sasuke's gone rogue to find him. I can't get in touch with him, and his car is not in his driveway. That is troubling. Do you have any information about Itachi being in Konoha? No, but something prompted Sasuke to run off. I'm worried, uncle. I can understand that. You've been working together for some time now and have been friends since you were children. But Sasuke is a strong boy and exceedingly determined, a lot like Fukaku. I'm sure he'll return. Neji distractedly nodded his thanks for his uncle's comfort. Hinata entered the room. Neji stood up and kissed his cousin briefly on the cheek. So good to see you, Nii-san, Hinata said. You look wonderful. Thanks. Hanabi's on a date, so he won't be joining us. Neji looked at Hiyashi. Isn't she a little young to be going on dates? That's what I like about you, Neji. You're as protective of family as I am. Kakashi was worried about Sasuke too, but not as much as Neji. Kakashi tried the 4th time to call Sasuke about spending some time together this weekend, but Kakashi wasn't worried. Sasuke's phone was off or dead, probably left on airplane mode again. Having no home phone, Kakashi's only recourse was to drop by the house or wait for Sasuke to call him. Kakashi wasn't the emailing type for casual conversations. His Sunday was booked up to spend with his beloved dogs and seeing his own kendo master, so maybe having a Saturday alone was a good idea. Unless Sasuke called. Saturday, November 7th. Saturday morning, Sasuke disconnected the OnStar on his Cadillac to avoid being tracked. He didn't want anyone knowing where he or his brother was. Itachi slid into the back seat and Deidara into the passenger. Sasuke looked at the blonde in confusion. I can't be spotted in Konoha, Itachi said from the back seat. The windows are darker back here. Sasuke grumbled as he started the car. Both his passengers smiled as they buckled their seatbelts. Sasuke turned on the radio to dissuade Deidara from conversation, but then a Lady Gaga song came on and he started singing. Badly. Sasuke turned the station to classic rock station and the blonde started singing the Queen song that was already playing. Sasuke seriously considered running the red light. Itachi smiled at the reaction his lover was having on his brother. It seemed like an eternity before they arrived. Sasuke couldn't get out of the car fast enough. Deidara was slower and looked around trying to spot trouble if Itachi came out. He deemed the street empty enough and opened the door for Itachi while Sasuke opened the downhouse door. Itachi tried not to hurry too much to the door and the safety of the building. Despite the dust and staleness of the air, Itachi took a deep breath. He was home. The stale air still had the smell of wood furnishings. The place looked different though. Sasuke had crammed furniture into every room. There was the sofa from the living room of their family home, their father's favorite chair, and the grandfather clock from the hall. Added to the dust and staleness was a hint of char from the fire these furnishings survived. Most had drop cloths over them, but some pieces were partially uncovered. Don't come here often, do you, baby Uchiha? Deidara asked. Shut up! Itachi quietly looked around and then headed up the stairs to the bedrooms. These were also crowned with furniture and other objects. He yanked the drop cloth from his bed and lay down. He sighed and shut his eyes. He had only lived here for a few months, but it was the last home he knew before he left. The last home he had left since Sasuke had the burnt-out ruin of their mansion torn down. He didn't blame Sasuke for that. It was a ruin. In a way, Sasuke had saved all he could. Sasuke followed slowly, wanted to keep an eye on Itachi, but hanging back also to keep an eye on the annoying blonde. Seeing his brother laying on his bed, as if time had snapped back to when they were young. It wasn't the same room as when they were children, but it was the room and bed Sasuke crawled into after everyone else was killed, where he cried in his brother's arms before Itachi ran away. Sasuke crawled in next to him, and Itachi put an arm around him, as he would back when Sasuke would crawl into his bed after being awoken by a nightmare, or while he was grieving. Deidara had the good sense to keep his mouth shut as the brothers cuddled on the musty mattress. Soon they got up, and Itachi looked at all the things his brother hoarded there. An eerily still, hulking man sat in the driver's seat of a black Lincoln and watched the trio enter the townhouse.
Ha! There! See? I fucking told you they'd come here!
The platinum blonde in the passenger seat groused. The driver didn't respond, just took out his gun and checked to make sure the clip was full and that there was a round in the chamber. He twisted the silencer to make sure it was on tight.
Kagosu, listen to me, fucker!
I have no need to respond to your childish comments, Hidan. Kagosu looked around with more experienced eye than Deidara, looking for anyone who might take note of the pair. He slipped his gun into the holster under his coat and slowly slid out of the car. Sasuke and Itachi both stiffened and turned their heads towards the door. Did you hear something? Sasuke asked. I did, Itachi said. I didn't, Deidara said. There's someone here, Sasuke said. He pulled out his gun, took the safety off, and pulled the slide back, letting a bullet enter the chamber. He may be dating and living with an ATF agent, but Itachi paled at the sight of a gun and took a step back. Sasuke noticed, and that alone reaffirmed the idea that Itachi was innocent. Sasuke inched towards the door and then slowly made his way down the hall. He could hear the sounds of a pair of hitmen securing the ground floor. Sasuke backed his way into the room where his brother and Deidara waited. Fire escape, he whispered. Hurry! Deidara had been trained, so he didn't freeze the way Itachi had. He pulled Itachi to the window and pulled it open. The two of them went out on the fire escape and lowered the stairs as quietly as they could while Sasuke covered the door. Itachi was on the ground, and Deidara halfway down the stairs when Hidan peeked around the corner down the hall. He saw Sasuke with his gun aimed and pulled back. Sasuke wasn't going to fire just yet, hoping it was merely cops seeing something suspicious, but Hidan didn't identify himself. Rather, he rounded the corner and took a shot. Luckily, his line of sight gave him only a few inches of open doorway through which to shoot Sasuke. The bullet struck the door jamb. Sasuke returned fire, his unsilenced gunshot sounding like an explosion. Itachi heard the shot. Sasuke! He tried to climb back up the stairs, but Deidara grabbed him. Sasuke vaulted over the window casement. Get the car! He tossed Deidara his keys. Deidara pushed Itachi in front of him. They went down the alley and round to the street. Sasuke slid down the metal stairs railing and followed more slowly, keeping his gun aimed at the window. He saw the platinum blonde and took a shot, his bullet just missing Hidan. Sasuke heard his car skid to a stop behind him, and he turned and ran towards the open door and slid in, Deidara taking off before the door shut. Take 2 random lefts, then a right, Sasuke instructed. Let's just get some distance right now. You know the city well? Yeah. Do you know how to get to Larson and Grand from here? Yeah. In 10 minutes, start heading there. A friend of mine owns a body shop there. Sasuke looked out the back and watched for anyone following. Nothing. He glanced at his brother. Itachi was flustered. Sasuke gave him a small smile. Alright? Yeah. Sasuke's smile disappeared. Those guys were pros. At least 2 of them. I only got a look at one of them, but they were sweeping the ground floor and he was careful about his blind corners. He was using a silencer too. Were they following us? Not likely. If they were, it would have been easier to kill us at Deidra's house. I think they were lying in wait for us at the townhouse. They must have suspected we'd go there. Someone must know you're back. I've no particular reason to go there, but if they knew you were in town, they might think that you'd go to your old home. But who would hire hitmen rather than call the cop? He thought she stopped dead. Father. Sasuke blanched. They were silent for a few minutes. We're here, Deidra said as he parked. Sasuke got out. Wait in the car. Itachi nodded and Sasuke shut the door. Sasuke walked inside the storefront. Another platinum blonde was there. He gave Sasuke a sharp-toothed smile. Hey, Sasuke! Suigetsu, I need a favor. Sure! Listen, I found my brother, but now I believe he's innocent and someone just tried to kill us. Whoa! I need you to disable all the tracking on my car. Everything. Sasuke remembered his phone and checked it. Still off. I'm going dark. Got it. They went back out to the parking lot. I'll drive into the bay and get right on it, Suigetsu said. Sasuke went to the door. Deidra, out. Let Suigetsu drive it. Deidra got out. Itachi stayed docked in the back seat. Suigetsu slipped in behind the wheel and appreciated the interior. Sweet! He looked over into the back seat. Hey, Uchiha bro. Don't worry, Sasuke and I go way back. Once they were in the garage, Deidara got in the back seat while Sasuke talked with Suigetsu as Suigetsu started working on the car. If any motherfucker tries to steal her while all the security is off, I'm taking a head and displaying it over my doorway, they heard Sasuke say before Deidara shut the door. I'm concerned, Deidara said. About the fact someone just tried to kill us? Deidara shook his head, noting the lingering pallor of Itachi's skin. He ran his hand up Itachi's arm soothingly as he spoke. Well, that too. Now, about that brother of yours. You were the one accused of murder, but he's the one who actually seems capable of it. He's been carrying a lot of anger toward me. Now it's... Actually, I don't even think it's focused at all right now. He's an FBI agent. I'm less worried about him because of that, actually. They test agents psychologically. Sasuke's stable. He's sort of dark, he said with a nod. Sasuke is the least of my worries. Deidara noticed Itachi was shivering. You alright, Tachi? Someone just tried to kill us, he hissed. I've been shot at before, Deidara said. Not often. You don't really get used to it, but it doesn't rattle me as much anymore. I work at ATF, there are guns going off all the time, and I love my explosions. Sasuke's obviously been in firefight more than once. That was smooth. He looked up and down Itachi's trembling form. If I didn't think you were innocent, I would now. You're not acclimated to violence at all. I mean, you could take me in a fight, but I bet you couldn't shoot a gun. Right now? You know what you remind me of? A bunny that's been shot at, Finished? Itachi said, shooting Deidara a glare. Yeah, Deidara exclaimed happily. He put his arms around his lover and snuggled up to him. The other door opened and Sasuke motioned Itachi to slide over. He sat next to his brother. Are you alright? Sasuke asked. Shaken. I've never been shot at before. Sasuke smiled grimly. My partner thinks it's a bad sign that I like the rush. Need anything? Water? Coffee? I think Suigetsu has tea. Tea with lots of sugar if possible. I'll have coffee, Deidara said. I wasn't making the offer to you, Sasuke scowled. Baby Uchiha, how rude. Both men on either side of Itachi stuck their tongues out at each other. Itachi calmed. It was good to be around his beloved brother and his crazy lover. Itachi fell right to sleep once Sasuke turned on the engine and started making his way back to Deidara's summer house. Deidara had stayed in the back with Itachi and was soon lulled to sleep by the engine too. They were like babies being taken on a drive to calm them. Suigetsu had gone out and gotten them food and they hung out in the garage after sunset. Now Sasuke just wanted to get settled in for the night. He had napped in Suigetsu's office once the adrenaline rush from the shootout subsided, so he was fully awake as he navigated the tail end of the rush hour traffic. Sasuke was tempted to drive by his house or Kakashi's townhouse, but thought better of it. If those hitmen were looking for them, they would head to Sasuke's house and even Kakashi's if they had done their due diligence. The sound of his car door woke both his passengers when he arrived at the house. It was fully dark by that time. They hurried inside. Go get some real sleep, Aniki, Sasuke said. Itachi hugged his little brother and kissed his forehead. Good night, Sasuke. Good night, Aniki. Deidara came up and hugged Sasuke too. Get off! Sasuke pushed him away. Once those two were in their bedroom, Sasuke pulled out the files he and his brother had on their family's case. He went through and put them in order. There really wasn't anything to find since the FBI had quickly focused on Itachi and didn't dig much further. He was an FBI agent, and it seemed impossible that any of his fellows could have such tunnel vision. About 3 in the morning, he stopped and vigorously rubbed his scalp. There was a file folder he had been avoiding, and his eyes landed on it now. He'd seen plenty of murder scenes, seen many dead bodies, lots of blood, and enough gore to fill a lifetime, but these were pictures he really didn't want to see. But there might be evidence, clues. He fully understood why agents couldn't investigate their own family's cases. He took a deep breath and picked up the file. He opened it and was met with a photo of Obito with a bullet hole in his forehead. Parts of his body were charred, and Sasuke was somewhat comforted by the fact everyone had been dead when the fire started. No soot in the lungs. He turned it to see the second photo. Izuna. It really was like looking into some bizarre mirror. He turned to the next one. He shot the folder immediately. His mother. He tossed the folder across the room, several of the pictures of the burned house flying out onto the floor. He started to cry. Itachi had slept enough and was just lying in bed staring at the ceiling. Deidara slightly snoring next to him. He heard a noise and decided to get up. Light was streaming under the door. Itachi bundled up in a robe and ventured out into the hall. He heard Sasuke crying and tried not to make any noise as he went into the living room. Sasuke was surrounded by files and stacks of paper. Itachi was about to rush to his crying little brother when he saw the full-page photos on the floor. He bent down and gathered them up. When he opened the folder, he saw Izuna's corpse. That hurt because he was faced with the illusion that it was his baby brother on the slab with a bullet through the brain. Itachi came around behind Sasuke to crouch and put his arms around him. Sasuke had his palms against his eyes, so he didn't see Itachi. Suddenly being held startled him. He leaned back into his brother's body. Itachi wanted to cry too, but he had to be the older brother, had to be the rock to support his weeping baby brother. Sasuke turned around to cry into his brother's fleece-covered chest. Itachi rocked a little to soothe him. I wish I could say it'll be all alright. They're never coming back. But at least we're not alone anymore. I can't imagine how hard it was for you to be totally alone. I'm proud of you, though. I'm sure everyone's proud of you. He let Sasuke cry a little longer. Come on, drink some water or you'll be dehydrated. And you should go to bed. He kissed Sasuke's hair. Sasuke sat a few more minutes before he got up. Itachi guided him to a chair in the kitchen and poured the water for him. They were both silent, sitting at the table, Sasuke drinking slowly. You've been in a shootout before? Itachi asked. A few times, Sasuke smiled despite his swollen eyes. It's an adrenaline rush. I was called out to bank robbery and there was a shootout. A few bullets were aimed my way. Then, at a hostage situation. That was the first time I killed anyone. Then we went to arrest a suspect and he shot at us. We were wearing vests or I'd be dead. 3 shots, 2 in the chest, 1 in the stomach. I had nothing but bruises. I killed him too. Another time, we weren't there to arrest him but questioned this guy and he shot at us. Neji wounded him. The last one was another hostage situation. I got my car door repaired but I still got a new one. We're taking Neji's car from now on. I like my caddy. I like my Jag. You've killed 2 people? To save a hostage and in self-defense. The first one bothered me a bit, but the second one didn't at all. He as good as killed me. I kept the vest that saved my life. I snipped off a piece of it and kept it in my wallet as a good luck charm. I should have died that day. If you had died, I don't think I could have gone on. You're all I have left. Not true. You have Deidara. Itachi looked around to make sure Deidara wasn't listening. No. If I lost you, my most precious person, I would have no will to live. No strength to fight for my innocence. I can't lose you. I should be the one protecting you, but you're the one taking on hitmen. I hate that all this has put you in such danger, and that you had to take lives. They forfeited their lives. I didn't take them. I would never commit murder. He didn't mention that he had been planning to murder Itachi for years. You should sleep, Itachi said. No, slept enough. I'll finish organizing the files and put them away. Okay. Sasuke stood up and came around to hug his big brother. Good night, Aniki. Good night, Ototo. End of chapter 3. Stay tuned.